Я название не поменял. Ну и че, ну потом поменяю. Так быстрее будет. Привет всем, кто подошел. Уже. Или кто только подойдет, подходит. Да, ну вообще прямо сейчас и меняю, в принципе.
Now run!
Так, орёт ужасно. Оставайтесь людьми, оставайтесь людьми.
Hello guys, nice to meet you. I'm Leah, and this is
Ладно, экран
Dying to
сделать,
Know.
да?
If you're dying to know what's going on in the world of Dying Light 2, then you're in the right place. Here we'll be showing you all the news from the latest from the Dying Light world. We'll be announcing a few contests, we'll be talking to developers, and probably most importantly, we're going to be showing you a brand new gameplay trailer where you can see the current state of the Dying Light 2 game. But first, there's someone here I need to introduce you to. It's Aidan Caldwell.
I'm a pilgrim, an outcast, roaming like a Japanese Ronin or an Old West desperado. My past is dark, but my future has a tiny, dying light at the end of this tunnel. Hello, guys. My name is Jonas Scott, and I voice Aidan Caldwell in Dying Light 2. But before that, I'm going to host this program with Leia, if you don't mind.
My pleasure. Well, I'm ready. Jonah's definitely ready.
Девушку зовут
and I
Лея.
hope you're ready.
So, if you're dying to know, just like us, then stick with us.
Вот этот поворот.
The story told in Dying Light 2 occurs 20 years after the events of the first game. And if you're wondering what happened in those intervening 20 years, well, there's no better person to ask than the Dying Light 2 world director, Thomas Gabau, with who I'll be talking in just a moment.
And after that, I'll be speaking with Piet Jamenek, the narrative director of the game, so about the characters that appear in Dying Light 2.
Расскажешь сейчас о сюжете и о персонажах.
Welcome to the show, Thomas. So the first question I have for you today is,
Интересно,
do
где
I
это они
need to have
снимали?
played Dying Light 1 to sort
Ну,
of
типа, это
understand what's
сет,
happening in Dying Light 2?
No,
но
actually, you don't. Like you mentioned
на фоне
before,
что, это
game
зеленка
takes
или
place
это
20 years later.
that's
In a world where
современная
humankind
сцена
has lost
с
war to the
проекции?
virus.
Не, это
So,
зеленка,
in a way,
всё.
you could say that Dying Light 2 takes us to the world beyond the apocalypse.
Видос
Intriguing.
спотыкается
Right, tell me
постоянно.
more, please.
А, на
Well, you
Твиче,
remember
да?
the events
Сейчас
of Heron
посмотрю.
in 2014. Well, after that, world leaders, they had a tough choice to make. They had to isolate the city of
Видос
Heron.
спотыкается
Right.
For
постоянно.
that, they created an exclusion zone. Like in Chernobyl, only a lot more people were left to die inside the walls.
Yeah, right. So they just
Chernobyl.
isolated the entire city. And did it help? Did it stop the virus?
Yeah, for a while it worked. Enough for everyone to forget about it, at least. Only in secret, a handful of scientists continued to study the virus. You know, manipulating its DNA,
Да, всё вроде
creating new
нормально.
strains. They were looking for commercial military applications. So, you know, they were
Может,
doing it for the money.
может у тебя интернет
Of
спотыкался?
course. So what happened next?
Well, next, the shit hit the fan. By Christmas 2021, one of these mutated strains escaped from a level 4 laboratory located near Geneva. We don't really know if this was accidental or not, but this time the virus was much faster than any government. Before the world could react, civilization was on the brink of collapse. People were dying in the streets, capital cities were burning. By the end of 2023, 98% of the population had been lost to the virus. There was a few settlements remaining, but only one city was still standing.
По сюжету 98% человечества заразилось вирусом.
The city.
Right, so Villador is what we have left. So that's everything that's happened outside of the city. What actually happens inside Villador?
Well, the city has unique rules. First of all, it's surrounded by seemingly impassable walls. And inside the walls, the people that decided to use a radical new weapon against the infection. which actually gave them the upper hand in the first stages of the pandemic, but it also created terrifying new monster archetypes. 15 years on, a new equilibrium sort of emerged in the city. By daylight, human factions fight.
Люди в одном из аванпостов использовали какое-то оружие специальное, и это из-за него создались какие-то монстры специальные. Ну, я говорю как какие-то, какое-то, потому что он буквально так и говорит. А кто играл в первую Dying Light? Там хороший сюжет. Они очень... Я чуть сбиваюсь. Они очень сильно говорят в сюжете, очень много.
Yeah, sure. So, Aiden, he's the member of Outcasts, you know? The group of people traveling through this dangerous world of Dying Light 2, called pilgrims, because he's looking for his relative, the person whom he lost many, many years ago, and that person is his only memory from the past, and the only answer to whom Aiden really is.
Aiden is a really rich, deep character, very much cooler than I am.
Oh, no, come on.
I mean, he can run across buildings, jump from rooftop to rooftop, use all kinds of weapons.
Yeah, well, you know, he didn't have much choice. This world is full of infected, bloodthirsty creatures, so he didn't have much choice.
Сюжет была худшей частью игры, самая слабая. Ну это тоже объясняет, почему они концентрируются сейчас на сюжете.
But why did he come like that? Why him? That's the main question of the game, and the player will have opportunity also to decide how Aiden will evolve. Will he help the weak? Will it distract him from his main goal? Or maybe he will just strive to the end of his search as soon as possible.
I can't imagine trying to survive or live in a city like that as a lone wolf by yourself without any kind of support.
Well, he's not gonna be alone, you know. He will meet many people, but again, depending on the player choices. Some of them will become his allies, but some of them will become his enemies. One of the group he will encounter are the Night Runners, the former special force officers who were sick of the army's cynicism and lack of concern for common people. But they were brave enough to help the people during the night. And the night, as you know, is pretty horrifying in the game.
Yeah, so Aiden joins them, joins the Night Runners?
Oh, that's the question, my friend. The player will have to answer too. I won't spoil the pleasure of discovering Aiden's actions and true motivations.
Разговаривают они очень по-киношному. Но прикольно. В этом есть какой-то шарм больше, чем просто от живых диалогов. Ну, особенно если это презентация, то есть чтобы это красиво было. Хотя иногда есть ощущение, что тратит время.
So before we watch the gameplay trailer of Dying Light 2 for the first time, we need to talk about something which is basically the center of the Dying Light universe, which is
the community. Over the past few years, Dying Light has amassed over 23 million players and a 95% positive review rating on Steam.
Which in Steam Talk is overwhelmingly positive, so bravo.
Yeah, we'd like to take a few seconds and thank you guys.
Thank you all for being on this journey with us. Thank you for sharing your love with others of Dying Light. And thank you for these great moments spent together. Dying Light 1 has some amazingly creative fans, which is fantastic, pardon the pun, because we're going to be starting a brand new contest.
Стримить ролик Мунда. Ну, это вполне распространенная практика среди изданий. Не просто стримить ролик, а рестримить какую-то презентацию, в том числе, чтобы ее обсудить, комментировать.
There's a fantastic monetary prize on the line, but also there's some other great rewards you could be in with a chance with winning as well.
Like Platinum Edition of Dying Light? Look at this. This is the finest edition of Dying Light ever made. This is the Platinum Edition of Dying Light. This has every bit of content ever released for Dying Light in one place. It's massive. I mean, look at it.
For those of you who haven't experienced Dying Light yet, we are introducing Dying Light 1 Platinum Edition. It's the biggest and most complete edition to have ever existed.
Продают первую часть Dying Light в платиновом издании со всем контентом.
It's literally no better time to buy than now, and you can get it on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation.
Get your Platinum Edition of Dying Light now. This is the best offer, like, ever. I guess we don't have time to go over
Почти все мейн-квесты были подай,
everything that's
принеси
in the
никаких
Platinum
поворотов,
Edition, but
выворотов,
it
неожиданных
is
развязок.
everything.
Просто
This is how
принеси
it looks.
динамит, почини 3 генератора и так далее, поэтому они позвали изначально Авилона. Хотя знаю, что с ним стало, понятно, что будет на релизе, надеюсь, наработки не сильно переделали. Ну, Авилон не бог райтинга, так что какая разница? Вместе со второй? Нет, они сказали только это переиздание первой части, но они сейчас как раз показывают геймплей из первой части. Авилон, ну, хороший писатель, но не то чтобы... Если он ушел, значит, что игра будет плохой. Нет, он не единственный писатель, и много других писателей есть, которые также работают и хорошо выполняют свою работу. Они уделили большую часть в начале презентации рассказу о не заданиях, а разных сюжетных разветвлениях, которые могут быть. Но даже по их заявлениям судить, это странно. Это диванная аналитика, которой я точно заниматься не буду. Посмотрим, как оно будет на релизе.
But the wait is over. Let's dive into the open world of Dying Light 2. The last slice of Dying Light 2 showcased the mission from the main storyline.
You get after those fuck.
You saw how your decisions influenced the narrative and notably changed the environment.
Первая часть была демкой. Ничего себе.
In Dying Light 2, you become Aiden Caldwell, an outsider trying to unravel a tangled mystery from his past. Its trail leads him to the city, probably the last bastion of mankind in the world.
Shit!
At first, you feel like this intense, brutal place will tear you apart. But then you meet the Night Runners, veteran survivors who help people in better days.
By the way, I'm Hakon.
You were a Night Runner. You used to help people, remember?
Night Runners are gone. Finished. A myth.
And although it's not entirely clear you can trust them, you need allies in the dark. And these are the modern Dark Ages. It's been 15 years since the apocalypse.
Ну, не знаю, обычно демкам не ставят 95 баллов из 100. По крайней мере, в Steam столько процентов положительных отзывов.
People fight desperately for scarce resources. Rules are broken, and weakness is punished.
She's innocent.
3 factions struggle for position in the city. Survivors pride themselves on being able to adapt to any circumstances and cobble together safe zones almost everywhere.
Что там опять пронеси, подай, иди намешай? А что вам еще делать в постапокалипсисе? Как бы, вам нужно выживать. Для выживания нужны ресурсы. Ну вот, или бороться за власть. Тоже кого-то убить.
Factions to reach your goal. Help or harm them to reshape the city to your liking. Just remember, each faction contains complex characters.
Nosy Parker, ain't ya? Got some kind of bad habit of yours?
Ну так классно, типа, если игра хорошо сделана, не важно сколько там механик, типа, и в нее весело играть 800 часов. Я думаю, 800 часов это точно, ну это
and common thugs live only to plunder.
Странно было бы играть в игру 800 часов, если она тебе не нравится.
Yet nightfall scares all of them equally.
Это скорее пожелание на будущие части, чтобы можно было что-то добавить в будущем дополнительно. А если игра, ну, оригинальная, например, или какая-то часть сама по себе хороша, то и классно. Ну вот второй вроде бы, по крайней мере, показывает, что будет динамичней. Так что они прислушались. Ничего себе, он прыгает.
Yet night brings opportunity as well. Nests rife with infected during the day now lie empty. To explore them, you must tread carefully. But those brave enough to face the terrors of the night can loot a jackpot.
Порой даже можно было следить, где флешки саундсорса расставлены были. Если это геймплею не мешает, то какая разница? Это, по-моему, первый проект студии был. Или нет? Кто разрабатывал? А, нет, Touchland разрабатывал. У них еще Dead Island был, да. До этого. Ну, блин, они не так... Они не так много игр сделали. То есть Dying Light их вторая игра, грубо говоря. А, хотя нет, не вторая. Я все переврал. Короче... Да, у них много игр. Call of Duty, Call of Juarez, Dead Island. Еще десятки ноунейм игр.
Making sure swinging a big, meaty weapon is fun, satisfying, and well executed. But even the most brutal fights can be tactical as well. You have multiple ways to hone your skills toward the gameplay style that suits you best. It's up to you if you focus mostly on mobility and parkour, or aggressive, blunt force combat, or a crafty approach where the tools you've created get the job done. Every ability you learn can be a game changer and possibly a new favorite move. Things move fast and quick in Dying Light 2. Each moment matters. Each move could mean triumph or
Вырезали стрельбу? Не будет пушек? Что?
Choose your actions and friends carefully. Everything you do in the city can
Ну, наверное, логично, когда у тебя главный герой паркурщик.
But most importantly, you decide your own fate as well.
You're about to turn.
Make sure to stay human.
An extensive post-apocalyptic world. And I really like that divisiveness, you know, the life on the roof and then death on the streets.
Yeah, like the intensity of the day and the night cycle together.
It's almost like Dying Light 2 is two different games put together into one.
Yeah, like despite all the brutality going on the ground floor, there's something about like the rooftops and the plants. And
It's
stuff.
cozy.
Yeah, I kind of want to be there. But it does feel like every decision is vital. Like your choices actually do have some consequences.
Choices and consequences are incredibly vital to Dying Light 2's gameplay. And we're going to interview some devs and talk about some other very vital gameplay mechanics. Our next guest is Adrian Pizza Shizevsky. Hi. Hi.
Welcome, and that gameplay looked awesome. I know we can't wait to get our hands on it, but congrats.
Thank you. For sure. It looks like you guys have a very unique world and a very unique game. Where y'all get your inspiration from?
Oh, that was a research. We did a deep dive into the history of our world, and we found repetitive patterns. We found that people use the same behaviors in the past after the fall of civilization. or after the fall of the nation that's supposed to be a backbone of our world. So our approach was super simple. We just copycat those behaviors and attitudes and show you how our world would look like after the fall. However, it's kind of obvious that the main reason that civilization fall is virus pandemic or eventually the economical collapse. Yeah, that's basically obvious thing. But it's even darker if you connect those things with the research we did at the beginning of the production. So people will question everything. They're gonna blame everything and everyone that's supposed to guide us in our lives every day. So they're gonna blame governments, they're gonna blame law, they're gonna blame science, or even religion. Some people might ask themselves that where was God when it happened to us, basically, you know? So I feel that all of those things together creates the sensation that it's a giant step backward for our civilization.
So, Dying Light 2 has a subtitle, Stay Human. What does that mean?
Well, it's super hard to remember those values that makes us human, so like compassion or support. So the entire fall, that those dark times we have is a big test for everyone. And I think it's even harder test because to stay human, people would sacrifice what's the most important for them or sometimes risk their lives.
Wow, so that's like really intense. And there's like the obvious like double meaning to it, which is what I was thinking. Stay human, don't become a zombie.
Yeah, but one disclaimer, those are not zombies, you know, those are infected people that turn to be a monster. They're just crossing a line, you know, and they're turning to be a monster, you know. Because in Dying Light, we all infected. Yeah, we all wearing this biomarker, you know it, and you're wearing this, I'm wearing this. That's a watch, actually, but you know that, you know, so that's the thing. So the challenge is to not cross this
Первая часть сейчас стала для меня последней купленной AAA игрой за 750 рублей. Причем это был предзаказ с сезон пассом. Ну, Dying Light вышла в 2015 году. Да, там был 14 год. Известные события. И вполне возможно.
We have with us Katarzyna Tarnacka, the environmental art director.
Hi. And we have game designer Michał Duzak.
Hello. So, choices and consequences. The player has to make
Ах, те времена, когда игры стоили AAA по 1000 рублей.
What does that mean?
Basically, the whole system of choices and consequences is really complex.
Biomutant 3500,
I would say
кстати.
the best way to describe it is that player is making the decisions based on 3 layers. First one are the choices that you do during the main story missions. And those big changes actually can change the whole game or even how the story ends. The second layer are choices that you do while the quests. And those choices can actually influence the mission itself. And the last layer is so-called city alignment system. And I, as an open world game designer, would like to focus on.
Please do, go on.
All right, so water and electricity are basically a key to survive in every world. By restoring it, player can not only unlock the water or electricity in the area, but he can also, based on his decision, assign it to one of the factions, which will influence how the district looks like or who's going to live inside of it. But it also, what is pretty more important for a player, unlock new tools for him, like unique tools for each factions, like car traps, zip lines, or a trampoline. That player can use in exploration to deal with bandits or infected, or simply to move faster through the city.
Клевая аватарка, респект, если это ты, действительно ты на фото.
You shape the game environment, which gives you a different experience every time you start.
На логотипе батя.
What is worth mentioning here that Dying Light 2 is playable up to 4 co-op players, so you can host the game.
О, кооператив. А, да, кстати, в первой части ведь тоже кооператив был.
How their choices came up differently to your own.
Если я не ошибаюсь.
There's one thing I'm really curious about, though. Night versus day. How does the gameplay differ from the night and the day?
Well, the short answer is that day is for humans and night is
Да, в
for
первой тоже был.
monsters. But to describe it a little bit better, I would say that during the day, humans.
Ну, короче, электросити, понятно, опять вином Дамбо-Гувера запоминал. Ну да.
And this is the best time for a player to
В принципе, авторы, просто хорошие авторы, обычно с похожими тропами работают сюжета. Сюжетными. Хотя это, в принципе, похожий жанр для Авалона, поэтому он может здесь еще развернуться. То есть один вид постапокалипсиса, другой вид постапокалипсиса. Но он же не один моб, поэтому. Хотя, наверное, общие черты сюжета он описывал.
To use the fact that all the infected are outside and buildings are accessible to explore them and search for the most valuable loot in the game.
Katarzyna, you're responsible for the post-apocalyptic look of the city. Can you tell us a little bit how about the city became to look that way?
Yes. I guess the important thing to realize is in 2025, a decision was made to use a chemical attack to stop the spread of the Haran virus. And the result is a tight ring of chemically active areas around the city. Some of the chemicals have gotten into the groundwater and spread under the surface, killing every living plant and every living thing in its reach. What it means for the city is that the street levels are virtually dead. The soil is unable to sustain any life, any plant, and the street level is a domain of the monsters, just decaying in
Зомби-тематика изжила себя. Нет. То есть, чтобы судить о том, что какая-то тематика себя изжила, это значит, что в ней не о чем больше сказать. Но для зомби-тематики это далеко не так. Просто все, кто работает с зомби-тематикой, ну так, на посредственном уровне, примерно одни и те же тропы исследуют. Люди остались одни. Им нужно бороться против нового ужасного вируса.
Of a lost civilization.
Yeah, to say the least. I can't imagine being a citizen living in that city, let alone being a player, and how challenging that's going to be.
Yeah, and hold that thought. Thank you very much for joining us today, but it's now time to introduce our next guests.
With us now are Bartosz and Peter. And guys, I have one question about the open world in Dying Light 2. How big is it?
It's pretty big.
Просто игра-то, наверное, получится хорошая, и, в принципе, не только это, может быть, следующее. Но что Dying Light 2, что... Сейчас проедет один мудак под окнами. Что Dying Light, что остальные игры, они с зомби-тематикой одни и те же идеи используют. У вас есть зомби, может быть, это орды зомби, один зомби, у вас есть специальные зомби. Люди изобретают разные специальные приспособления из подручных материалов, чтобы сражаться против этих зомби. Зомби могут бегать быстро или медленно. От этого тоже меняется геймплей. Вы можете грабить остатки человеческой цивилизации, чтобы находить что-то новое. Кто-то борется за власть. То есть, как бы... Вы уже знаете, что вам собираются рассказать, поэтому... Это и кажется неинтересным. А так, в принципе, если человек в первый раз это видит, то это будет интересным. Но, конечно, хотелось бы новую перспективу на все это. На такой зомби-апокалипсис.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop you there, but don't hate me because in the next episode, we're going to be talking more about parkour and how the team have managed to make an authentic urban running experience in Dying Light 2.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the information. Bartosz, Peter, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the last and arguably the most important question I'm sure you have is when is the release date?
Yeah, that is a very, 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 very important question.
And luckily, we have the answer. And that answer is the 7th of December!
7 декабря выйдет игра.
And now that we know the release date of the game, it's time for you to go pre-order it. Go to dyinglight.com/preorder, select your platform, and then hit pre-order. And there you go. Congratulations. You just pre-ordered one of the most anticipated games of this year. Go you. Oh, wow. I want one.
Well, I've got good news for you then, because this official figurine is part of the collector's edition of Dying Light 2, and you can get one for yourself if you want. We'll leave like a proper
Ну, катов
unboxing of the
очень
whole
много.
set
Почему нельзя было
of
снять это
visuals,
как-то
but we
в
do
одном
have it all in front of
кате?
us right now, so
Хотя бы этот
it'd be rude
сегмент.
not to take a look. You get, in the collector's edition, a concept art book full of stunning artwork from the game. You get this steel book, which will have your game inside it, of course. And you get this interesting little sort of UV flashlight. So, yeah.
Cool. It looks like there's all sorts of vanity elements in here, too, like some legendary skin packs, as well as all sorts of digital elements. For more information on these digital elements, please visit the pre-order website. I want this. And I want Dying Light 2.
Kind of thought you'd say that. Well, if you're feeling the same way, then I've got good news, because you can pre-order the collector's edition. However, it is very, very limited, so you'll have to be very quick.
Коллекционное издание будет доступно, но очень ограничено. Ну и с этой фигуркой вместе.
Edition of Dying Light 2 with a steel book, legendary pack, and a digital soundtrack, and much, much more.
So to summarize, that's 3 different editions that you can buy depending on what you're after. And if you just can't wait until release to get immersed in the world of Dying Light 2, then why don't you go check out the Techland Gamers and Goodies website for more info.
Yeah, this is a program for all gamers, whether or not you want updates on Dying Light 2 with the news, or you want Dying Light 2 items in Dying Light 1. Everyone's gonna find something they like there.
Yep, and this is just an initial offering as well. Check back later for even more details, more information, and we'll be going through it in future episodes as well.
За подробностями можно обратиться на специальный сайт. Ну и там еще какие-то розыгрыши устраивают.
And here's a sneak peek at the topic of the next episode. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there.
Следующего эпизода они будут продолжать еще в течение года рассказывать об этом. Об игре. Ну вот, отлично. Не вздумайте, кстати, приордерить игру ни эту, ни любую другую. Чекайте пострелизные обзоры. Окей. Так. Вот, на этом все. Надо будет скинуть ссылки на то, что они тут рассказали. Где-то на ютубе, наверное, будет записи, да? Давайте ютуб откроете. А где видео? Еще раз. Там было написано, что 1 минуту назад есть, а его... может быть, посортировать нужно как-то по-особенному? Нет, newest. Странно. Ну вот здесь, короче, они есть в поиске, а на канале пока нет. Геймплей, первый эпизод, очевидно, будет еще. Ссылки под ним, наверное, есть на предзаказ и все остальное. Спасибо, что смотрели. Увидимся через 1,5 часа. Это была презентация Dying Light Reveal. Через 2 часа... Ну, это у меня местное время, не смотрите. Плюс 2 часа от Москвы. Через 1,5 часа будет State of Play с Horizon 2. Тоже застримим. Кстати, надо было написать, наверное, что здесь. Но это неожиданное было, поэтому... Был стрим. Вот, приходите, тоже посмотрим. А завтра Far Cry 6 смотрим в 7:30. Не в 21:30, в 7:30 по Москве. Ну и State of Play в полночь через 1,5 часа. Все, жду вас.